Welcome back to another video. It's just a simple voiceover again today, but we go over my lighter leg and shoulder day from last Thursday and my lighter back and bicep day from last Friday. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I usually skip recording my light chest and tricep day because usually it's extremely busy at the gym on the weekends and it's a little weird recording, especially when there are many people around. Anyway, let's jump into the workout. For my leg day, you probably saw me work up to a top set of front squats for 1 rep. And then I drop the weight, and then I do a 3 sets of 6 reps. So I'm currently working on my wrist mobility and my flexibility to be able to do a front rack properly. I think a lot of that has to do with my lat tightness and also my wrist. So I make sure to stretch and roll my lats, triceps, forearms, and wrists before I start. As you could see though, on the last rep of my lighter front squats, my wrist couldn't really take it anymore. And I had to do a bodybuilder style of front squat. Overall, just trying to get a full depth in the squat and still working on my weaknesses, and it'll help in the long run as well. Moving on, after front squats, I did 2 movements that seem kind of sus, if you know what I mean. They're usually looked down on, especially for like the gym bros. But I gotta tell you, don't hate on it until you try it. So I did the single leg hip thrusts so that I could focus on each glute lifting their own weight, instead of one compensating for the other. As you can probably see, I had to adjust my feet placement and all that multiple times throughout the movement to get the best squeeze. I've mentioned in previous videos that sure, I might deadlift a decent amount of weight, but my posterior chain is still more submissive than my anterior chain, so I'm more quad dominant. So it takes a minute to be able to feel and activate my glutes and my hamstrings during like deadlifts and hip thrusts and other posterior chain movements. And that's where the TRX hamstring curls come in. These give you an extreme squeeze when it comes to hamstring curls. Even if it's just like my body weight, the contraction that it gives is second to none because it's not a stable ground that you are pushing off. It's like hanging ropes. It forces your hamstrings to have to control your whole body during the movement. At the same time, it's a little bit of core stability because you see my whole back getting off the ground. If you haven't tried these exercises before, I highly recommend that you try these out during your next workout. And so moving on to shoulders, I did 3 sets of 6 overhead presses. For these, it's kind of like doing a bench press. You can see that I keep my back pressed into the back of the bench and keep your scapula retracted and your core tight as well. Because the tighter your body is, the easier it is to lift the weight. And yeah, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable when you first start doing it, and you feel like you're really out of breath. But eventually you get used to it and it helps more in the long run. And from the overhead presses, I moved on to the lean away cable lateral raises. Right now I'm just showing you one side of it, but of course I have to do the other side as well. The cables are great because they keep tension during the whole range of motion. What I mean by that is because it's cable and the pulleys from the bottom, there's tension on it from the very bottom of the pull all the way to the very top of the pull. When it comes to dumbbells, at the bottom you're kind of resting because it's just dead hanging right there. And then the top of the movement, it's easy for dumbbells because that's where you're actually flexing your shoulder to pick up the weight. Not to say that you shouldn't use dumbbells at all, but just mix it up. Occasionally, you can also add holds, like isometric holds at the top of the movement to add some stress to the muscle. Either way, lateral raises help to create the really big frame or the wide shoulders that many guys are looking to have. And then the presses just give you strength for that. Then my last shoulder exercise is face pulls. Face pulls works on the rear delts or the back shoulders, and it helps to give the shoulders the full round shape. Some people have just a really strong front, but not the strong back. It's also important to work both the front and the back portions of any muscle to prevent any injury so that one can help to counteract the other. Now moving on to deadlifts, I moved up to like pause squats. So I moved up to a top set of, it was 365. So I did 3 sets of 3 pause squats. I pause at the knee, and it just helps to, when you hold a position, You build that positional strength, and it helps in your main lift because then your chest doesn't collapse during the movement. After my pause squats, I moved on to just regular deadlifts. This is my lighter days, so I usually work on conventional for my lighter days, just to work on any weaknesses and to strengthen my lower back as well. From here, I did 2 sets of 6 for 405 on the deadlift. That was actually a personal best for me, and I felt really good to be able to do that even with conventional. And of course, I needed to rest a little bit and tighten my core again. Moving on, I did the isolateral lat pull down. I like to do isolateral work, which means like each individual arm work, so that it works on any imbalances that my body might have. Some people are really right dominant, some people are left dominant, and so it's just good to fix any imbalances there. Then I moved on to regular low cable rows. I like using a straighter bar because for a straighter bar, it focuses more on the middle part of your back, like your rhomboids. If you use like the narrow grip V-bar and all that, it works more on your lats getting a little thicker. For my last movement, I do a low to high cable row. Here, I don't necessarily go super heavy, but what I do is I have like a 2nd or a 2-second hold at the top and just really focus on feeling that back squeeze. This helps, like, again, the rhomboids and also my traps. And the squeeze just helps me know that I'm having a good muscle and mind connection so that I'm actually working the muscle that it's intended for the exercise. You should put this into your workout at the end as well. Use kind of as like a burnout and to use it to complete your back exercise. Moving on to biceps, I started out with preacher curls. As you can see, the weight's not too much. Personally, I don't have very strong biceps. For me, I believe that biceps are a muscle group that doesn't necessarily require a lot of strength, but at the same time, it is a good muscle group where you can use lighter weights and still be able to push it to its limits. So I usually go a little bit lighter for biceps, but I focus more on the quality of my reps. Next, I move on to seated hammer curls. I decided to do a lot of seated stuff because my lower back was getting a little sore from all the heavy lifting that I've been doing. So a lot of seated work just helped to put a lot of stress off of my lower back. From here, as you can see, I also focused on the contraction at the end of the lift. So I squeezed it really tight at the end, and it just gave me a really, really good pump. At the same time, the hammer curl works on the long head of the bicep and just gives it a bit of that thickness throughout. I finished off my bicep workout with a slight incline on the bench, with my shoulders and elbows slightly behind my body, and that allows me to work on a little bit of that shorter head of the bicep. As you can see, I'm not doing exactly super heavyweight, but I'm still struggling because at this point my muscles are extremely fatigued and I'm just squeezing out what I can. Well, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Head over to fnxfit.com and use my personal code INSANE to get yourself 15% off of your order. And until next time, train insane.